Hi everybody, welcome to Abundance and Mindset. Silzo here in Dominican Republic. I have a special guest for you today. I wanted to talk a little bit about alpha male energies and alpha female energies, and talk about what's important to most men and how we attract that type of energy into our life, and what some people expect. So stay tuned for more. Okay, so we're here at the beach in DR. We got our first guest today is Daniel. We're going to ask him, what is your definition of an alpha male? And part B might be, how do you think that some men hide behind the alpha male rhetoric to show their confidence?
Well, for me, I guess the definition of an alpha male would be kind of like what you would see in the natural world, right? Like you see animals fighting for dominance to secure their lineage. So that's kind of more of the primal instinct of being alpha, I should say. But in our society, I think there's kind of a difference between an alpha male and someone who is just insecure with their masculinity. So for me, like, I can be completely comfortable with having an equal partner, and I would rather have two powerful forces working together towards a goal, and being able to appreciate the fact that I don't have to be the only one carrying the weight.
Right.
It's like being a smart manager of a situation. I think that for the most part, there is kind of this misconception that an alpha male has to do with how well you present your ego. Usually that's more of a sign of insecurity, so I don't know if that necessarily shows you the strongest or the toughest of the males.
You said something yesterday that kind of stuck with me. You said if you're in control.
Oh, right.
What was the line?
I was just saying, you don't have to be in charge to be in control, or vice versa. You don't have to be in control to be in charge.
Right.
So
I like that line.
those thinking of it like that allows you to understand that you could switch roles as far as strengths are concerned between the two partners.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always have to be the one that's leading the charge, especially if it's not your particular forte. Between my wife and I, we have strengths and we have weaknesses. We both know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we depend on each other for moments that we know we're better suited for. It just makes sense. So again, I would rather have an equal, strong partner in a relationship versus someone that is just waiting for me to take care of them.
Yeah.
That would be a waste of energy. I think that in some ways, men hide behind that a little bit because it's easier.
Sure.
If you don't have to consider anything else than your own ambition, that's fine, but your world's going to be a little bit smaller because it's only going to be what you can think of. When you combine two minds and you come up with something larger than yourself, I think it's what's intended. So being a true alpha is probably more about being able to recognize that you don't have to be above someone in order to be equal to them or to have his equal strength. And as men and women, we have different strengths and weaknesses. Obviously on the physical side sometimes, but more or less on the emotional side as well. And so, our children look at us in different ways because they look for different things. As a mother, Angela's more of a nurturer. And as a father, I'm the one that's trying to, get him prepared for the world. That's more natural of the order, but it doesn't mean that you can't both fulfill those roles at different times. You might be better at it than the other person, but that doesn't mean that you're the only one that can do it. So I just think it's important for a lot of guys to just I think they use their ego as an excuse and say, I'm going to be this man and I need someone to respect me. It's more of an insecurity. If you respect yourself, you don't need that validation from somebody that's, you know, somebody that's in a possessive type of relationship where the girl's just waiting on the man hand and foot, and the man is supposed to be the only thing that matters. It's just, it's a very small world to live in when it comes to all of the things that you might encounter. Plus, your relationship can go a lot further if you're both equal partners in it. So, for me, that's how I view it. Angela and I have always done really well, never trying to dominate each other, but yet complement each other in our relationship. And recognizing the differences between us and not trying to live up to any one thing.
All right, so what do you think that a woman, do you believe in alpha females?
I guess it's kind of a different take as far as the natural world's concerned. It's a little bit different. I guess if you looked at like a pack of lionesses, there's going to be one of those females in that pack that leads those other group of females to then go hunt.
Right.
I mean, if you've ever watched the documentary on lions in particular, the male only comes in for the kill. The female lionesses, they do all the hard work. They do the legwork of chasing down the animal, getting it tired, usually, you know, getting it to its final stages, and then the male lion just swoops in and does the last bit.
Yeah, and do you think that, and even watching the documentary on the lions, do you think that a woman being an alpha woman is only doing so because it's an act of survival and she has to? Would it be the same if there was a male lion around? Would he do the kill?
I suppose, but the question you have to ask yourself though is what you would want. Like, I don't think that the lioness would want to take the position of the lion. I mean, again, we embody the things that we are. We're male or female. That's not really a choice we were given. It was what we were, you know, how we were delivered. If a female feels empowered to the point to where she can control her environment, that's fine, but it's the same mentality where if you're the only thing that's important, then it's kind of a lost cause, right? It's a shared commitment. Like, there's moments where Angela could be an alpha in a situation and I'll sit back and watch her go to town on somebody. That's fine. It's not going to bother me. It doesn't reflect poorly on my manhood.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't measure my manhood based on what other men think, which is, I think, typically the flaw of a lot of men. I think one of the greatest examples of this is Prince.
Right.
Like, Prince redefined what masculinity could be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, most guys were just usually scratching their heads at Prince, not understanding him. And of course, they had their thoughts about it, but you know, he had more women around him than anybody I ever saw. So when I was growing up, I thought that was really kind of a telling thing, that it wasn't about what other people think, it's about what you're able to do. And being comfortable in your own skin has a lot to do with it. If you're caught up in feeling like you've got to be, you know, an alpha of someone else, if you have to have a dominating presence over someone else, that's more or less just an identification of the insecurity that you already have. Once you're comfortable in your own skin, you can be who you are without any influence outside of that, then you're probably ready to join forces with someone else. But you probably got to work through your own stuff if your main concern is you.
Right.
Because then you're still in a relationship with yourself. Again, like if you're keeping score in a relationship, then you're just playing a game. You're not really in a relationship. So
it kind of makes love feel transactional, right?
Of course, like if you do this, I get that kind of thing, and that's more or less a pay for play type of scenario.
It doesn't, it doesn't give the man the room to be in his masculine if you're trying to one up on him.
And to respect it as well. Like, so if you're in a relationship and you're being dominated, then you're probably living in some sort of a passive world where you feel like you're just secondary to that thing that you're connected to. And it's kind of the old school way of, when women would only be concerned with being the missus of someone else.
Yeah.
But again, I think there's so much opportunity in the world that it shouldn't be limited to just a male experience. I mean, that would be selfish of me if I wanted to limit the playing field because I felt like I couldn't handle the competition. So I think a lot of men do fear it. I think they're scared that if they given the opportunity that a woman might be able to best him at something that he's supposed to be good at.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should just shut it down altogether. I mean, you have to face what doesn't necessarily make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, being uncomfortable is part of life. And if somebody has a particular perspective where somebody has to be subservient to them, then they should probably just be alone because they're better off alone. And I have friends of mine that I think that way sometimes. I think that they're not really meant for relationships because that's not really what they're after.
Yeah.
And and if they're honest with themselves, then that's exactly how they would approach it. They don't necessarily need validation through a relationship because they validate themselves on how great they are all the time. So it's like once you can decide that the ego of yourself is no longer the main focus of who you are, then it allows you to let other people in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, again, like you said, it's just a transaction. It's just pay for play. You know, you keep clean and cook for me, and I'll provide, you know, safety and security. That's a trade-off, but that's not a relationship.
Right. Got it. All right. Anything you'd like to say in summary? Conclusion?
In conclusion, don't quote me on any of this. I don't want to be lambasted by anybody. You know what? I've had a lot to drink. Say that. But that's just my own personal opinion. Like I just feel like there's more opportunity when you have an equally powerful partner versus someone that is just there for you because they are going to worship who you are. And I think that so there's some guys that want to be worshipped, and that's just a false sense. You'll never get outside of yourself.